what we've received is it's not only from the University of the Free State. We actually received complaints from our members at several employers who are looking for certainty, who say, we don't know if an employer can force me to undergo this medical procedure. And from our perspective, that's the main reason that we chose the University of the Free State, as well as a couple of other court cases, as strategic court cases that should set a legal precedent and that should at least provide legal certainty regarding mandatory vaccination in the workplace. We are of the opinion, we hold two positions here. The first is that vaccines are safe and effective, and they work very well at reducing hospitalization and death. Unfortunately, they work less well at reducing symptomatic infection and transmission with each successive variant. Now, this we can see from the data. The second is that mandatory vaccination flies in the face of having a safe workplace, flies in the face of the spirit of OSHA, Occupational Health and Safety Act, and flies against the Department of Labor's directives regarding how do you ensure a safe workplace. Along with this, mandating vaccines now will inevitably entrench resistance and harden it, and will make any future public health measures increasingly difficult to implement. So we're worried that mandating vaccines will ultimately scupper the success of the vaccine program on the longer term.
You're concerned about what you've called the blanket approach. Let's talk about the essence of your the basis of your argument, what you really want to put out very strongly, and what are you hoping to achieve?
Yes, so I think we accept that in certain exceptional circumstances, it would be necessary to be vaccinated to be able to do your job. We're looking at healthcare and those sectors maybe. But in line with the Department of Labor's directives regarding a safe workplace, this should be the exception, not the rule. And what we're now seeing at the University of Free State and other employers are that they're trying to elevate the exception to the rule by saying everyone should be vaccinated regardless of circumstances, whereas the actual legislation and regulation asks for a cooperative, consultative process with individual risk assessments done with each employee regarding their work situation as well as their health situation. And then you can, in exceptional circumstances, say, we're of the opinion your circumstances as an individual employee mandate a vaccine for you to be able to do your job. None of these processes were followed on the legal point of view. None of this was followed, and this is just plain employers trying to take a shortcut out of the pandemic, where we've now learned after 2 years there are no shortcuts out of this. We'll need to work together, and we'll need to trust one another to make good choices.
What about the opinion that perhaps your efforts may be seen as efforts that will perhaps polarize or politicize government's vaccination program?
So Solidarity's stance on vaccines is public record. We've released several reports in which we state vaccines are safe and effective. We encouraged our members. In fact, at Solidarity itself, it's almost 75 to 80% of our members are fully vaccinated. 86% of our staff are vaccinated, and the rest are primarily not vaccinated because they've recently had COVID and are waiting for the immunity to wane first. So we've at no point been against vaccines. We're very, very pro getting vaccinated to reduce the severity of illness and to get out of this pandemic. That is why when we say we're extremely worried that mandating vaccination will have exactly that effect. We've seen this in other countries happen. It politicizes the debate, it polarizes it, and at that point it increases resistance and entrenches it. And our COVID is going to be with us for the longer term. We're going to have COVID for a long time, and this will not be the last time that we need a vaccination or a booster shot or something in those regards to protect healthcare. And if you're now trying to compel, which is the facts at the University of the Free State, 7 out of 10 students to get vaccinated, the majority are not vaccinated at the moment, this is going to lead to all the negative outcomes of a mandate, which is more polarization, radicalization, politicizing the vaccination campaign, and having most likely protest action that can lead into weeks or months that entrenches resistance. And then next year, when we're trying to do it again, now it's 8 out of 10 students, and after that it will be 9 out of 10. So we'll have all the negative outcomes of a mandate with none of the positive health outcomes. Ultimately, the successful vaccine campaigns that we can see internationally started on a voluntary basis and remain that way. We're talking Portugal, Denmark, and Spain, which should be actually flagships of how do you get a successful vaccination program. The people who are hesitant, the majority of them are really just worried about side effects and efficacy. You've got a small portion who are vehemently against vaccination and will never vaccinate. but the majority are saying we need more information. We're not comfortable at the moment. And surely the answer then is get proper information to people and trust them to act like adults and to make good choices for themselves. Otherwise, we're going to be in a situation where every new booster, people get denied access to their workplace suddenly unless they go that way. And that creates an unlivable situation with, if international standards are anything to go by, massive protest action that follows and ultimately the death of a successful vaccination program.
Some legal experts have weighed in on this matter, saying that making vaccinations mandatory could be, in some instances, legally justified in court. What's your position?
I think we accept that in some instances it could be justified. As we've stated, it should be the exception, however, but if you're looking at healthcare specifically, there are several instances where an employer can rightly and justifiably say, you cannot perform this job unless you've been vaccinated. We don't think that's true for all employers, and we especially don't think that's true for all employees at employers in South Africa. If you're looking at the University of Free State, it's a very high burden of proof that lies on an employer to say that you need to undergo this medical procedure for you to be able to do your job. The directives from the Department of Labour state that there are several other steps that can be taken to ensure a safe workplace before you get to mandatory vaccination. You can accommodate the employee with other means, maybe get a work-from-home system going, maybe change their duties if necessary. All of these are steps that can be taken before you get to the point where you're saying, we're going to force you to undergo this medical procedure or you're going to lose your job, which is what's happening to our members. Now, we think this is just plain, it's lazy from employers, and it's a shortcut that they're trying to take, and it's going to backfire in the longer term and not have nearly the effect that we think it is. It's not going to increase vaccination rates by as much as we'd hope, and it is going to increase resistance and politicize the debate further.
How far are you in the process with your court action?
All right, so we've got 4 court cases. The first one would be next week against the CSOS. It's an employee and a member of ours who's actively been locked out, who can't go to work and is not being paid at the moment because they're not vaccinated. With the University of the Free State, we're in court in early February, where we are then going to get legal certainty at least. Now, the reason these cases are important is because then, at the moment, we're in this legal murky area where no one really knows what an employer can actually force an employee to do regarding vaccination. And we'll at least set a precedent there that then will function as a legal precedent for all the other court cases. For the simple fact of the matter, we cannot do 300 plus court cases at 300 employers in 1 month. But if we can get a good legal precedent that gives us legal certainty as the whole of South Africa regarding this issue, then we can go forward with a sober debate about how do we get immunity up through vaccination, natural immunity, how do we get to a point past the pandemic.
And very lastly, before we let you go, what is the tone or perhaps the response of the University of the Free State with this court action taking place?
Thus far, it's been a statement that says we've done everything we should, and it's just plain impractical to do individual risk assessments. Now, that does not actually excuse you from having to do it if you're saying, well, it's going to be really difficult to do this, and this is the easier route to just mandate vaccines. That's not the way rights work, and that's not the way legislation works. If we took the easy route, and it's actually, I'm flabbergasted that 2 years into the pandemic, we still think that there's an easy route out of this, and there just isn't. We're going to have to take the long road to get out of it. We're going to have to trust one another, build trust between the university and its employers, and especially between the university and its students, and then get to a point where it's us against the virus and not us against one another based on vaccination status anymore.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Let's leave it there for now. Connie Mulder, head of the Solidarity Research Institute, saying that Solidarity is taking the University of the Free State to court over vaccinations. We will continue, of course, to bring you more of the story as it develops.